All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. We are about to get started. And all right. Hey, let's good morning, get this everybody. Muted. I thought all of a sudden Matthew McConaughey was here. All right, all right, all right. What am I looking for? I am looking for not that, not that, not that. There it is. That's all right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Yesterday, we did the 10 questions on self-introspection. Pretty powerful questions. They're life-changing if you understand it. We talked about the difference between selling into the gap, right? A lot of people talk about selling into the gap and finding out where somebody is and then selling them into that. The challenge is that when you sell the gap, from where they are to where they want to be, that's the gap. You are literally reminding them of the pain, and you're doing this somewhat consciously, more often subconsciously. You are reminding them of the pain of what they don't have. And that's a big challenge. It's why a lot of people don't like sales. They'll say, I'm not a salesperson. It's literally one of the biggest challenges of sales in general is we talk about and we sell the gap instead of selling the gain. And the gain is the new identity, the future identity. And yesterday we worked on 10 questions, right? You can go to yesterday's live, and we worked on 10 questions to help you do some deep self-introspection, right? And so you can look at all of that. It was about a 45-minute conversation. Then we did some Q&A in my Zoom group that I have. And so now the question is what's the bridge we do to help people get to where they need to get to, right? So this is part 2 of the 10 questions, right? 10 questions for you, 10 questions for them. This is the prospect's bridge. This is a high-level guide of to get the prospects to sell them on their own transformation. Does that make sense? See, most people don't understand the power of that. Getting them to sell themselves on their own transformation. That's where the sales takes place. It doesn't take place with your product, your service, the value you provide. They already believe they're entitled to it. They already believe that there's truth to it. That's why they're having a conversation with you. The question is right. So some of you have been around and you've been part of my CQCEs: clarify, qualify, create expectation. So this is kind of that. This is a little bit more intense. So now the conversation is, how do you get them to build their future self? And it's getting them to sell themselves on their own transformation. So first of all, you want to start off with the expectation, right? You've heard me in our role-playing conversations when I've helped people with sales presentations. Hey, listen, what's your expectation from this presentation, from this conversation? What do you hope to gain from our conversation together today? And then you wait and you listen. What you're literally doing is you're causing a new set of neural patterns to happen inside of their brain. Remember, I'm a trained neuro encoding specialist, trained brain trainer, elite brain trainer by the Amen Institute. Is we have to activate parts of the brain that have never been activated before. How many of us can remember that 6-digit security code that comes across when we're trying to do when we're trying to log in and it has double security? It checks your email and then it sends a code to your email or a code to your text, and you get the 6-digit number that you have to drop in, right? They want to make sure you're you, and you can remember that. You can look at the 6 digits, you can say the six numbers. I probably can't remember it an hour from now. Same thing holds true when you begin to unlock their future self. When you begin to unlock their future self, they can see it, they believe it a little bit, they don't remember it enough, right? So if this worked perfectly, what would be different in 90 days? What do you think would happen if you asked just that one question, not the 9 other questions? If you asked just that one question, what do you think would change in your presentation? What do you think would change in your conversation? If you said, hey, listen, if this worked perfectly, what would be different in 90 days? And then hush your cake hole. A lot of us don't feel comfortable with silence. A lot of us don't feel comfortable in making people feel a little uncomfortable, which is why I developed the 3 questions: permission to help, permission to make you feel a little uncomfortable, and permission to take you out of that uncomfortable feeling. So there's number 1, the 90-day vision. How many of you have ever asked people that? I can promise you the majority of people have never asked that. Why? Because you're more worried about, the salesperson is more worried about getting the sign up than they are the enrollment. It's easy to sign people up. I'll hold a gun to your head, sign up. Oh, okay. They're probably not going to do much after that. So then the next question is the access, right? It's the first one is the 90-day vision. The second one is the access. Here's the question. What would that change allow you to do or be that you can't do today? If you saw yourself 90 days from now, if this worked perfectly, what would that change allow you to do or to become that you can't do today? So many of you are locked into wanting to give a script versus create a dialogue. Do you think you'd have a different conversation if you actually allowed people to have a conversation with you instead of a rebuttal or defense dialogue? If you're getting objections, you are putting them in a defensive position that they don't even want to be in. So 1 was 90 days. Number 2 is the access. If you access that, if you became that person, what would you do or what would you become that you can't do today? See, that's more emotional than it is logical. Here's another one. Here's the next one. It's called the sensory details. What would you notice first? You became that person. You started to do the things you couldn't do before. What would you notice first? Would you notice your body's different? Would you notice your habits different? Would you notice your environment's different? What would you notice first? Would your relationships be different? Here's the trigger. Here's the big one, right? We kind of softened them up, and then we ask the question, why now? What is the trigger or the cost of staying the same? Right? We set them into the future. You can take more travel, you can do more trips, you can be healthier, you can have more romance in your life, you can create more income in your life, you can do more things in your life, you can pay off bills in your life. What is the trigger or the cost of staying the same? Do you realize you now become a valuable resource in asking these questions? You're no longer a presentation, a network marketer, an MLMer, one of those thing kind of people. Hey, then, right? So after the why now, right? The next one is sustainability. What have you tried before? What needs to be different this time? How many of you have ever had people who have said, oh, I've been in this industry before. I've done network marketing before. I've done this before. What if you ask the question, what needs to be different this time? See, it's the tone you ask this. These are very interrogation-like questions. These are very emotionally charged questions that if you show up with a loud voice, with an intense voice, with a non-loving, non-sure of yourself signal, you're going to cause some problems. What have you tried before? What needs to be different this time? All right. Here's the next question. The believability scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, how real does this feel? What moves it up one more point? 90-day vision. If you access that version of you, what would change? Who would you become? What do you notice first? What have you tried before? What needs to be different this time? On a scale of 1 to 10, how does this really feel? What needs to move it up just 1 point? These are powerful, aren't they? How much of your presentation have you given so far? Doesn't it set the stage for them to want to listen to what it is you have, for the solutions you have to give them all of these things? Here's the new identity question. What identity must you step into for this to be normal? What identity do you need to step into for it to be normal for you to have a global business? What identity do you need to step into? What signal adjustment do you need to step into for you to have $100,000 a month income? Or $10,000 a month income? I can tell you, you're not in the signal if you don't have it. You tune into the frequency. You say, I'm going to earn $120,000 this year. I'm going to earn $10,000 this year. I'm a $10,000 a month earner. You say the signal, you say the frequency, your signal's not in alignment. What identity must you step into to make this be normal, for this to become normal? Here's the anchor. You ready for the anchor? What support or structure has helped you succeed in the past? See, I make it more farm boyish when I use it because that's my style. Have you found anybody else willing to help you achieve these goals that you've set out? Have you found anybody capable or qualified to help you on the path to these goals? I have desire, I have want, I have wishes for you. I have skills and talents that are designed to help people move forward to undevelop. What support structure have you helped that has helped you in the past? Most people say it hasn't. Well, could we build a new one? So here's the clarity. What makes this a clear yes? And what makes this a not now? What makes this a clear yes? What makes this a not now? You hear the power behind these questions? Now, many of you are struggling with the questions. I know this from the years of teaching this, the decades of teaching this. You're struggling with them because you don't have these answers for yourself. Right? Yesterday was 10 questions all about you. These 10 questions are about them, but they're kind of still hitting you in here. I get it. So now we talk about the micro win, right? Here's the micro win. This is the last question for them. The bridge is, what one small, meaningful step can we map out for the next 7 days? See, we got a 90-day plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. Do we have a 1-day plan? Do we have a, what are you going to do in the next 24 hours to give yourself a micro win? What are you going to do in the next 7 24-hour days? So you know you're capable of doing this. You know you're capable of taking advantage of it, of leveraging it. So here's the implementation. Here's the shift. Moving from transactional closer, focusing on the deal, to transformation architect, focusing on the person. Which one feels better? Closing the deal or being a transformation architect? Focusing on the person. The person has got to use your product. The person is going to get your benefits. Just a thought. So here's a 3-step integration. What's your morning prime? When you're going to go do sales, when you're going to, and you're about to go do a sales event, whether it's a phone call, a training, whether it's a one-on-one, a Zoom, go back to yesterday's 10 questions on you and answer one question. Answer one question in part one before your first call. What you'll find is that it'll recenter you. The challenge is that when we talked about the questions yesterday, let me just touch on them real quick, right? We talked about most sales methodologies focus on the gap. We're focusing on the mind shift, the gain, right? What does next level look like for you? What does your calendar look like? How many of you put stuff in your calendar last night for today? How many of you set up your schedule for today? Right? What part of your future feels hardest to believe? What's the underlying belief? What does this shift in your own personal identity enable you to do? I'm the kind of person who wakes up without an alarm clock, does my exercise without anything, serves enough people to generate $10,000 a day in sales volume. Who are you becoming? It is your signal that is off, not your frequency. So if you're going to go do this, here, the three-part conversation is: one, answer a question from part A, from the first part from yesterday. Discovery audit. Record a call. Did you ask at least 3 questions that we talked about today? I can promise you, if your sales are struggling, you're not asking questions. And then if you are asking questions, you sure as heck aren't asking the correct questions. It's not that they're right. There's simple rules when you're dealing with human psychology. All right, so part 1 of the 3-part process is answer a question for you. Number 2 is, did you ask at least 3 questions out of the ones we just used today? And then what's your 7-day feedback loop? So today is now Tuesday. From last Tuesday to this Tuesday, have you kept track of and today is your day to give yourself some feedback. Tomorrow is your day to give yourself some feedback on a 7-day loop. Review your small step. What's your micro win that you can have with your prospects to ensure momentum? So there you go. There's the 10 questions to ask prospects to build the bridge. You ask them 5 of those questions. You figure out how to become engaged enough that you can ask those 10 questions to a prospect. Harvey Mackay, Swim with the Shark, and How to Swim with the Sharks and Never Get Eaten, I think is the title of the book. I know that's pretty close to it if it's not it. Harvey Mackay had the Mackay 66. You can Google it. The Mackay 66. He would have his salespeople get answers to 66 questions. You know what the conversion rate was when he had those, when a salesperson got all of those questions answered, probably even before then. Yet when that was 100% complete, the sales conversion was 100%. Why do you think that is? Well, we know the phrase.
We can hardly hear you suddenly.
When people have that phrase, people do business with people they know, they like, they trust. When you understand those 66 questions that McKay had for his sales force, it's pretty powerful, isn't it? I created the Murphy 66 for network marketers. And if you'd like to have that, you can reach out to me and we'll get a copy of that over to you. So that being said, there's the conversation for today, part 2 of the 10 questions to get 100% conversion. I'm going to go have some conversation with some folks in the Zoom room. If you want to learn more, go to my webpage, SeanGMurphy.com. I was going to give you my Instagram handles. That's Sean G. Murphy now. You can go find me on Instagram. And I look forward to having a conversation with you. If you need to reach out to me, you want to learn about mentoring, feel free to do so. And we'll have some fun conversations in the next couple of days. Thanks, everybody. Till then, bye for now. Let me just stop live. I almost shut